Hello my gorgeous plant people, welcome back to Rooting Mindfully. My name is Iana, and today I am giving you my 30-day experience with the prayer plants. So let's get into it. Hey guys, so like I said, today we are doing a 30-day update, a 30-day experience update on my calatheas or my prayer plants, and I have to let you guys know that it really hasn't been that bad. I'm going to show you all the prayer plants that I showed you in the first haul. I will put up the second haul. I'm just waiting for one more plant, but as far as the first haul, they're all still here and they're doing pretty well. Alright, so the first one I'm going to show you was in that package that got stuck in the mail for about 2 weeks. This was from the plant farm, and this is the Stramanthes sanguinea. As you can see, this plant is doing a lot better. It's even got more color coming back to the leaves. It's more green. When I first got this plant, it was really pale. It had more of this like yellowy color. If you can see here, it was more like this color on the leaves, but as you can see, it has gotten its luster back and its color, and it's doing a lot better. Like I said, it has been putting off a couple other shoots that are a little bit damaged, but that's fine. It is putting out another shoot here. If you can see that, it's putting out that shoot, and there's one coming here. So like I said, this plant is doing well. I'm getting the hang of these plants. I'm making sure that I'm trying to maintain the fuchsia that's on the back of the leaves. I did have most of these plants sitting on my windowsill in my northeast bedroom, and it's just sitting right on the windowsill, and I noticed that a lot of plants didn't like really sitting in the northeast windowsill. So I moved them a lot further from the window, and they've been putting out more growth that way. So in my experience, these plants don't really need bright light. They're more of a medium light, and that's where I've seen most of them thrive, is in medium light. So that's the first plant. This is the Stramanthes burlemarxii, and this one's doing pretty well. It's not the fastest grower, but it does have some new growth there, and there's a new leaf coming in here. And so like I said, it's not the fastest grow, but it's also doing well. It did have the one leaf that unfurled, and that one looked pretty good. And so this one's just hanging out. It's not really a big drinker as far as watering goes. You can see that all my prayer plants are in terracotta. That is just what I feel more comfortable with. And I don't feel like I'm watering more frequently than I would be if they were in plastic. I'm watering my plants about 1 to 2 times a week max, and I don't really feel like they're drying out because they're in terracotta. So there's the Stramanthes burlemarxii. This one is the small Calathea macuyana. As you can see, that weird leaf that I had on there did unfurl, so that one's doing pretty good. It did have a little bit of damage on the leaves, but it looks good. It has this new growth here, and other than that, this one's doing well. I can start to feel when these plants are pretty, when it's time to water them. I can feel the difference between, them being watered and not watered. This was one of the plants that had that netting around it. And so I find the ones that had the netting around it are taking a little bit longer to bounce back compared to the other ones that didn't have the netting. And so that's another thing that you might have to look for with your calatheas, to see if they have the netting around the roots. Just because I found that when they have that netting, it really contracts the roots and prevents them from growing or getting to a desired size. So that was something that I looked for in my prayer plants, is whether or not, if their roots looked good, if they had anything obstructing their roots, if they had rotted roots. And so that's what I found with this one. One of the plants that I forgot to show you was my rattlesnake calathea. I did include a picture, but I forgot to show it in the haul. This one I got from the Terrain, and it has a lot of burnt spots on there just because they had this plant in pretty much full sun, like it was in like a really bright room. And my experience with this plant is that it really does not need a lot of light at all. If you give it a lot of light, it starts to lose that pretty purple that's on the back of the leaves. So I actually have this one really far from my northwest window, and you can still see that some of the purple is fading off of the leaves. So even that is too much light for this plant. Like I said, this plant really doesn't need a lot of light, but it's been putting out a lot of new growth. A lot of people say that this plant grows slow, and I don't think it grows slow. It all depends on the lighting condition that you have this plant in. So if you do want this plant to grow faster, you can put it in a lighter, put it in brighter light, but then you risk the chance of losing that pretty purple backing. So it depends on what you're looking for in the plant. But I find that this one grows pretty well. I've gotten about 3 new leaves since it's come into my care, and I'm really enjoying this plant. It is very gorgeous. The reason why I picked this one specifically is because every time I see a rattlesnake calathea, it has a really light green leaf. It's more like this shade, and when I saw this one, I just saw how dark the leaves was, I just fell in love with just the dark foliage. So I'm really trying to maintain this darker green as opposed to having a lighter green snake, calathea. And so this is why I picked out this one, just because it has a really dark green, and then that pattern just really pops out against the plant. But I really like this one a lot. The next one I have is the Stromanthe Trio Star. As you can see, this one is also doing well. It's put out this leaf and this leaf here. And so this one, it's just functioning all on its own. It does have another new leaf that's coming here, if you can see that. And let me see. I think that's the other leaf that's coming out, but this one is doing well. I did have this also sitting in the windowsill, and while a lot of people say that, give it brighter light if you want to maintain the variegation, you also have to be careful not to put it in too much light, because even in my northeast window, it didn't like sitting in the windowsill. And I can show you, let me see. This one and my other one, this green one for sure did not like sitting in the windowsill. So you even still have to be careful with the ones that have a lighter variegation with the lighting, because they still don't like, having so much bright light. So if your plants start to have any, burning on the leaves or anything, just make sure that you move them back so that way they don't continue to burn and get any direct lighting on their leaves. And here is the Stromanthe Magic Star. As you can see, this one is looking pretty good. It did put out this leaf. It just unfurled this leaf here. It has this leaf coming, and then this leaf on the inner side as well. So this one's putting out a lot of growth. I also don't have this one very close to the window. It's probably a foot or so back from my northeast window. When I did have it sitting in the window, it did get a little bit of burning on the tip, as you can see there. It did burn the leaf just a little bit, and I know for a fact it's not a humidity issue, because I can show you my humidifier, because everyone always says it's humidity, but this is what my humidity is currently sitting at, 70%. You can see the highest that it was 74%. And so it's definitely not a humidity issue. This plant did not like sitting in the windowsill, so that's why I pulled it away from the window, just so I wouldn't continue to burn the leaves. And in fact, as far as my humidity, I've been actively trying to bring my humidity down. If you check out my Instagram, I've been posting my Instagram stories. I woke up one morning and my humidity was at 90%, and it was just entirely too high. So I had to open up all my doors and windows just so I can air out the humidity and bring it back down. But even with my windows and my door open, I was only able to bring my humidity down to about 75 to 70%. So that is what the Stromanthi Magic Star looks like. This is a beautiful plant, and like I said in the first video, this is what happened when I wiped the leaves off. I wiped the leaves with tap water, and then the water just sat on the leaf without me. I should have, made sure that it was more dry, but this is what happened there. So this one is a little bit sensitive to different water just sitting on the leaves, especially if it's water with chlorine or fluoride in it. So it's still a really gorgeous plant though. And the next plant is the Calathea rufibarba. This one probably did the most growing out of all my Calathea. And so it's put out this leaf here, it's put out this leaf and this leaf, and it's just a very vigorous grower. It's got this leaf coming, this one here, and then several new growths here down at the bottom, as well as on this side. And if I had known that this plant was going to grow this fast, I would have liked to put this in a 6-inch pot, as well as the rattlesnake Calathea, just because I like to have more distance between the the stalks and the edge of the pot, just so when I use my moisture meter, I'm not gonna damage any potential new growths that come up, because these are rhizomatous plants. So I wish I would have potted this one in a wider pot, just so I could have more distance between the edge and the growth points. But this one is a really fast grower, like I said, and it is just a beautiful plant. I love the rippling and the fuzzy, the fuzzy leaves. This one also did not appreciate being in the windowsill. At first it was growing so well in the windowsill, but I removed it from my windowsill because it was getting too wide. And when I took it off my windowsill, I also noticed that this one got a little burnt from being in the window. And let me see if I can find it. There was a little bit of edging that got burnt on the window from the just a little bit of light that I was getting in my windows. And I don't get a lot of light in my northeast window, but obviously it was just too much for the plant, and it really just did not appreciate it. So I did move this one about a foot or so back from the window, and it's doing a lot better, but it did get a little burning on the edges. You probably won't be able to see it because the leaves are so dark, but in person you can see that I burnt the plant where the sunlight did kiss the leaves a little bit. So that's what that one looks like. And then all this cosmetic is from when it happened prior to me having this plant. And so you can see that all my plants have been repotted into terracotta. Like I said, I don't feel like it takes away from the moisture and me having to water it anymore. I haven't had to water them 3 or more times. And as well as a lot of people say that Calatheas don't like to be repotted. I also didn't have any issues with them being repotted. I'd rather have my plants repotted in a mixture that I like rather than the mixture that they came with, because a lot of them came in like really heavy soil mixtures. Some of them were straight peat, some of them were straight, just heavy soils. Some of them didn't have any perlite in them. Some of them had way too much perlite. Some had sand. So I'd rather have all my Calatheas in my one mix of 80-20, 80% black gold, 20% perlite. So that way I know that they're in the mixture that I like, and I can, kind of maintain their moisture. This one is the Calathea orbifolia. It is looking a lot better than it did when it first came to my house. It was a lot paler because it was in that package that got stuck in the mail. And this one took the longest to recover, but it is starting to put out a little growth point, as you can see there. So there is hope for this plant, and I'm really excited. I did order another one of the orbifolias in the Makoyana just because I was going to do an experiment, but don't mind sage. As you can see, like I said, this plant is doing so well, and I'm excited to see it put out some new growth. And I would say this one is a little bit thirstier and could use a little bit more lighting as compared to my other calathea. And the last one out of the first batch of calathea plants is the Calathea Maui Queen. This is what it looks like. She has been putting out a ton of new leaves. As you can see, this leaf here, this leaf here, and the 3 leaves that I had when I first showed you. Now this one has been the most difficult in trying to find the right amount of lighting, because as you can see, it's been losing the pretty purple that's on the back of the leaves. And so I pretty much have to put this in a dark corner, which I'm really hesitant of having it in the dark corner just because I don't like putting plants really in a dark corner. But it seems like that is the only place to put this plant and try to maintain the purple, because there's just the purple it's just fading. And so I moved it as far as I could from my northwest window. Then I put it on the other side with my northeast window and kind of put it in the corner. But like I said, I feel bad for putting it in the corner, but if I want to maintain the pretty purple that's on the back of the leaves, that's just what I'm going to have to do for this plant. But like I said, it is growing well and it is a beautiful plant. I do notice that this one prays earlier than my other plants, so that also lets me know that it also doesn't need a lot more light than the other ones, because it prays at least an hour or so before my other prayer plants. So I'm just thinking that if it prays earlier, because they do, fold flat, they do lay their leaves down when they want to accept the light, and then they fold when they have enough light. So if this one is folding earlier than my other ones, that also lets me know that it doesn't need as much light as the other ones. So this one I'm going to try to continue to figure out where to put it. But other than that, it's still a really pretty, beautiful plant. And I'm having no issues with it, no browning or crisping on the edges. My conclusion so far with calathea is that while humidity is important, I think your watering is where you really need to succeed with these plants, because even letting them dry out just a little bit can be a little bit detrimental to them, and they really need to maintain that moisture. So I do make sure that I am watering my plants as soon as they hit a 3 or 4. I'm not even letting it go down anymore. Oh wait, I missed 2. Hold on. I can't believe I missed these 2. So the first one is my Maranta Curtriviana, and it's just the green version, but this one is such a beautiful plant. I love this plant. I posted this on my Instagram to give you guys an update on how they were doing, and this plant is doing so well. It's putting out so many leaves. I really like this leaf here, but this one has been shooting out a ton of leaves. This one's a new leaf, this one is a new leaf, this one's a new leaf, and this is the latest leaf that it's put out, and they are just such beautiful plants. This one I could stand to let dry out just a little bit more, just because you see that patterning on the leaves. That's what happens when the plant, it was transpiring or perspiring while the leaf was unfurling. So it was like this, and the water droplet was sitting inside of the the little rolled up cigar, and so that's why it has that marking there and there. It just had too much water inside the little cigar while it was working on unfurling. And so there's a couple leaves that have that, so I could stand to let this one dry out just a little bit more, probably when it hits about a 2, and I think that this one would appreciate it. But other than that, like I said, it's growing really well. They're all in terracotta. I haven't had any additional browning except for what happened when it came home, because like I said, when I first picked up this plant from the nursery, it was bone dry, and I mean bone dry. So when I brought it home, I repotted it, and I watered it, it instantly got these little crisping on the tips. But since then we haven't got any additional crisping. As you can see, all the new leaves are without any crisp, and it's doing really well. And the last plant is the variegated version. I got this from the plant farm. This one is finally putting out new growth, and it's got a shoot coming out here and some growth coming in there. And so this one is doing well, and it is such a beautiful plant. I moved it away from my grow light because that's what happened when it was near the grow light. And so my conclusion, like I said, is that these plants really don't need that much light. They do grow on the forest floor, and so we have to try to mimic that, and that's why I give all of these medium light. And as far as watering, I did start out doing distilled water, and while distilled water worked really well for my plants, I am not bringing home jugs of water. I'm not doing that. That's too much work, and lugging jugs of water home, even though it works really well. And you can see that I have quite the number of prayer plants. I have even more from my second haul, and so I'm not willing to put in the cost for that, and just lugging that back home, it's not going to happen. I did start collecting rainwater, and I wish I had done rainwater before when we had all those storms in Delaware, because that would have been perfect. So my first experience trying to collect rainwater, I put a bucket outside, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to collect rainwater. And I was like, oh, let's see how much we got saved. And I go out and I get the bucket, and it was only like that much rainwater. And I was like, oh my goodness. So it's going to be a fun experience trying to take care of these plants. I did water one plant in a pinch. I ran out of rainwater, so in a pinch I mixed filter water and tap water and watered one of my calathea, and I didn't get any brown tipping. So I don't know if I'll be doing that long term, but I did do that just because I was in a pinch. But I will continue to collect rainwater. But yeah, that's my experience with the prayer plants so far. So far it really hasn't been that bad. The thing that I'm trying to get a hold of is the lighting, and I guess most people have trouble with watering, but I'm just like, these are kind of like how I take care of my ferns, so it doesn't really bother me if I have to water them once or twice a week. And at first, the first week or so, I was like with the watering can, like, what do you need? What do you need? And I was just like, it was just way too much. They were just like, chill, like, relax. And now I'm just like, I just check on them every 3 days or so, every other day, just to see if they need water. And we're not so anxious around here. But yeah, like I said, we're doing pretty well. I get my last calathea tomorrow. It should be delivered tomorrow, so I'll do that haul, so that way you can see the other ones that I have purchased. And then once I get some more experience with them, I'll go ahead and do a care video. I'm not really wanting to do one right now, just because I feel like I just got them, and I don't really like watching care videos where you can clearly tell that someone just got the plants and then they just put out a care video, because I'm just like, you just got the plant, so how could you really speak on it? So just give me a little bit more time before I do a care video. It's going to be very comprehensive, and I'm very excited to do it. But yeah, so that's my experience. 30 days with the prayer plants. It hasn't been bad. I haven't been calling them names and shaking them around and doing stuff like that. But yeah, so comment down below what your experience has been with calathea or any other prayer plants. I am very interested to know. And as always, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos, subscribing and liking, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.